Morning, we start with some breaking news from Ukraine. We're hearing that a dam in a Russian-controlled region has been blown up. There's warnings of water rising to critical levels within 5 hours, and evacuations are taking place as we speak. The dam on the Dnipro River is part of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant and is 153 kilometres from Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Overnight, Ukraine hailed progress in fighting in the east, while Russia is claiming it has thwarted an attempt by Ukraine to launch an offensive in Donetsk. Well, Alex is standing by for us this morning in Dnipro. Alex, what more do we know? Good morning.
Absolutely huge news overnight, and pictures already coming out of the breaching of the dam. Initially, Russia denied that it had been affected. Both sides are blaming each other. Certainly, it is going to cause a huge amount of problems, and looking at how much of it has been breached, they're expecting, certainly the Russians are saying 80 settlements are affected. The Ukrainians have already said that at least 10 villages should immediately evacuate. The river, massive waterway, cuts across right through two held territories. On the left bank is Ukrainian territory, including Kherson city, which you saw our own Alex Rossi being the first reporter in there when it was liberated by the Ukrainians back in November. But the dam has been held by Russia, and the other side, the other bank of the river, is under Russian control, including this crucial dam, has been held by Russia since February 2022. If it floods, as it very much looks like it's going to, with both sides, those people in control of the areas urging people to evacuate, the Ukrainian police have put out messages on the Telegram channels saying that in 5 hours it's going to reach critical level. They should grab everything they can and try and save their lives, including vital documents, pets, anything emergency supplies that they need to get out of the area. Crucially, though, it also supplies water to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to the north and the Crimea peninsula to the south, which is under Russian control. So it is going to have a dramatic effect, not only on possibly the cooling plants in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, but also the water supplies to the Crimea peninsula. This is all coming at a time when the Ukrainians have long expressed their desire to launch a counter-offensive. That yesterday there was lots of propaganda from both sides, claims from both sides, with the Russians saying that they had blown up 16 tanks and killed nearly 300 Ukrainian soldiers in one of their probes, and in the start of what they said was the Ukrainian counteroffensive. The Ukrainians, in the meantime, have issued lots of videos, including hacking into the Crimean television and radio services, urging everyone to be quiet and to maintain a silence. And indeed, the Ukrainian military has said they will not be announcing when they are launching any counter-offensive. So it's very difficult to know whether it has been launched, but certainly this is going to detract a lot of attention and emergency services. The president of Ukraine has ordered an emergency meeting of his National Security Council, and they have urged, the Ukrainian authorities have urged both people living on both sides of the banks of the river to evacuate as soon as possible.
OK, for now, thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, our international correspondent, John Sparks, reports now on what we know about plans for the Ukrainian offensive.
The Ukrainians have been preparing for months for a spring offensive that's shifting to the summer. And the pressure's building as they seek to reclaim their lands. But in this slick-looking video produced by Ukraine's military, they tell us they'll fight where and when they see fit. Plans love silence, says the caption. There'll be no announcement about the start. Yet both sides are fighting, and the Russian military spokesman has decided to call it. The enemy has launched a large-scale offensive without success, he said. We've seen claim and counterclaim in the past 24 hours, rebel fighters saying they're in possession of villages in Russia's Belgorod region, while the Russians say they destroyed a Ukrainian unit in Crimea. There are claims the Ukrainians have taken Kakhovka near Bakhmut, while the Russians say they've killed up to 425 Ukrainian troops in southern Donetsk. So the counteroffensive's begun, says Russia, but the experts aren't so sure.
I think what we're seeing is what I would define as probing attacks along the front line to identify the kind of force that the Ukrainians will be faced with, the size and the type of Russian forces that are defending those areas.
The Russians say a large-scale attack is underway in South Donetsk, and Sky's data and forensic unit have verified a series of videos from the area, all published in the last 24 hours. Here we see tanks in close combat near the village of Novodarivka. And 8 kilometers northeast, in the same area, we've pinpointed footage released by the Russian Defense Ministry where a number of military vehicles are targeted. But we haven't seen evidence of a major thrust by the Ukrainians, along with the use of Western tanks, like the Leopard or the Challenger.
Mr. President, welcome. Thank you very much.
What we have seen is the UK's Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, in Kyiv, where he reassured his hosts of Britain's continued support.
When we made the commitment publicly that we would continue backing you and your country until you are victorious in your self-defense, we meant it.
And senior officials in Ukraine now say they are moving to offensive operations. The tempo of war is rising. John Sparks, Sky News.
Well, that was James Cleverly in Ukraine yesterday. Well, a little earlier, Justin, in fact, James Cleverly speaking, once more reaffirming the UK's support for Ukraine.
We have always made it clear that we support Ukraine's self-defense, and of course the decisions about how Ukraine conducts that self-defense are rightly decisions which are made by Ukraine's leadership. We want to see this war come to a conclusion quickly, and it has to come to a conclusion which is fair, which is right for the people of Ukraine, and of course is a conclusion which reinforces rather than undermines the UN Charter and the concept of sovereignty and territorial integrity.